So ultimately, it's like, do you see this happening anywhere else? Like, do you think there are any new entrants that are coming like down the pike that might be able to do this? Like any Chinese companies or anything? Do you have any exposure from that front? I'm curious. Like, does the next Tesla, like, do we have to wait 20 years for that next Tesla to arrive? Like, what does it look like? You know?
Yeah. So a person of Elon's capability, focus, dedication, I think the last person who may have been of that impact may have been the Yellow Emperor thousands of years ago. And it's hard to know what is true and what is myth. I mean, this is thousands of years back, but maybe the Yellow Emperor could have been very Musk-like in some aspects. But some of that might be apocryphal and we don't really know. So it's quite possible there won't be another Elon for another several thousand years.
Wow.
To run Elon-like companies. And that then brings me back to my passion. So if I choose to believe that Elon is a rare type of person and directly responsible for much of the awesomeness that the Musk companies have, and a lot of human history will not have someone of that caliber, is if that's part of my thesis. But I still have a dream of 1 million, or actually 10 billion companies behaving like this, that are this valuable to humanity and this fun to work in, this satisfying. How can that come true? And the closest I've seen, this really could be a case of a hammer that looks at everything like a nail. I mean, I was an agilist before I went to Tesla. And so, of course, I saw agile principles everywhere. But there's also a lot of things I saw at Tesla that are outside agile. And I know agile well enough to say that with reasonable confidence. And I'm still trying to unpack and figure out what that is that I experienced, because there's more. I can't just say get agile. That would not, there's many companies trying to do that and they haven't become the Musk companies.
Yep.
But my wish is to make it more repeatable and try to make 10 or less rules so you can keep them in mind that people can use to get near, or ideally even better than Musk companies. And I don't have them yet. The 4 agile values and the 12 agile principles are the closest I've seen, but they don't hit it. They will not make you a Musk company. They'll help a lot of companies. They'll get a lot of companies way closer than where they are now. I mean, what that would do is it would get GM, for example, to less than 30-day releases in hardware. That would be a very different, much more competitive General Motors. I would love to see that.
Yeah.
But that's not what Tesla's doing.
Yeah.
Tesla would blow that away.
Yeah.
So there's these cool agile principles that have given me a vocabulary and an understanding point. And I think because of that, I was able to recognize a lot of things in a really short amount of time. But it also has hamstrung me. It's also held me back, because what are all these other things that are outside agile that I don't have names for? No one here seems to have names for either. It's simply the way the work happens. So I'd like to try to distill that into something repeatable. That's absolutely my dream. So I'll send a shout out to everyone on Farzad's channel. If you have a lexicon, a vocabulary for some of this, some proposed names or a set of names that already exist that are short and easy to remember. I'm not looking for a set of 12 books. I've probably read them and I think I probably know what you're talking about, but that's not going to make it easy and repeatable. That's not something you can give to your kids when you fly off to Mars and say, this is what you use to make your next company, right? You read this canon. That doesn't scale well.
Right.
Please put it in the comments. Tag me. I'm at Joe Justice on Twitter. Tag Farzad. Let's learn. I think it's hyper important to attempt to say, here's the Musk company or better startup kit.
Yeah.
And I'm working on it. I teach an agile hardware developer course. It's 2 days and it's the best I've figured out so far. And if companies did that, they'd be in a really good position. But I think I don't have it yet. It wouldn't make Tesla again without Musk.
Yeah.
So I'm aiming that way.
Got it. Wow. So that's an eye-opening statement for me, because so the way I think about Tesla, my experiences is that Tesla was like okay, so this is like the peak. Like this is everything that's happening here. But it seems like, so from your perspective, somebody who has had so much exposure to Agile and again has had this very impressive background, in your eyes, you still are seeing something that hasn't been seen before, that you don't even know how to describe. That feels almost surreal. It feels like almost like we're living. And I guess it goes back to the other comment you made about someone like Musk that has lived before in the past, maybe a couple thousand years. So it's not even generational. This is like on the time scale of thousands of years, you know? So like if we fast forward, okay, let's do a little fun experiment here. So let's fast forward 20 years from now. Okay. So, and let's say Tesla continues in its own trajectory. Okay. What's the word look like? Like what has happened, right? What has happened?
Yeah. I think that's pretty clear. Like the problem is it's so crazy. This is where I would lose a lot of people. They'd say, well, that's just nuts. There's no way.
You're not going to lose me.
The conversation might end up being only you and me and other people who actually work in these companies. And that's not going to help so many people outside. But I'll answer it honestly.
Yeah.
In 20 years, if we look at the ramp, I mean, there's a trend. You can see the trend in terms of innovation pace and rate of delivery and time length between iterations across all the Musk companies. And in 20 years, Tesla will very likely, and okay, what's actually likely going to happen is Musk seems to have a very good heart. And I don't think Musk is going to directly take over other companies, not hostile takeover style, but it's going to become multi-branded at some point. I still think that Tesla share price is going to bear the brunt of the success. So I'm very long. I'm 10,000 years long on TSLA.
Yeah.
But I think Tesla is going to rescue a lot of other companies, directly or indirectly. And I think Tesla is going to rescue a bunch of other industries. I think housing is on the radar. And this isn't me leaking sensitive information. Musk has hinted at that directly. And it's a dire need. Education as a concept, money as a concept, government as a concept, news, media, and fact as a concept will see fundamental rewrites, updates, edits, multiple new versions. Transparency will have a movement behind it. And I imagine there's going to be a bunch of misinformed backlash. I mean, we've already seen that, but imagine when people feel they're truly fighting for their lives, not fighting for one of their share price. I mean, there's a risk of World War III. I think Musk is elegant enough to bypass that, to miss it. And in fact, I see some of those mitigations happening now to prevent World War III. Part of it is putting plants, production facilities, and spending time there personally in places that could have been the trigger people. And I think that will continue to grow. China was first. That was very intentional. Germany was second. That was very intentional. India's on the radar. Musk is super smart and basically playing geopolitics for good, for the good of humans. I mean, it's not like he's buying a $500 million boat like Bezos just did.
Right.
Better than anyone. And the concept of money, the concept of education, the concept of fact and fact reporting are being updated. And in 20 years, it's going to be super different, is my anticipation. And that's simply the trend.
Yeah.
Like not even wishful thinking, like that's what's happening. There's already a set of Musk influenced schools with awesome robotics programming, KUKA robots in Texas. I mean, imagine kindergartners, preschoolers directly programming Fanuc and KUKA robots, the same ones in the factory.
Wow.
And that is happening now. So you have an update of what vocational education was supposed to be. And this is why the correlation with what may have been the Yellow Emperor is really apt.
Sure.
Some of the legends about the Yellow Emperor credit them with modern crop science, and then the political system that encouraged people to store crops over season, and then the political neighborhood and ethics system that created families that would consistently tend crops and rotate them and understand the effects of different foods, which foods were croppable, because this was way back in the day.
Yeah.
You know, and how to breed and optimize those, so that you could then have a non-roving, more established, knowledge concentrating and compounding society. And that's one of the largest changes that has happened to humanity. And whether one person did that or not, I have no idea. But if they did, that's what Musk is pulling off.
Yeah. It's like man,